what you guys must understand about personal development. Now, you have to understand that most people exist for the reason to be motivation for those who matter. Now, we have to understand that your existence has a quality marker on it. And so there are people who produce value and there are people who do not produce value. Now, the people who do not produce value can simultaneously be used for motivation for those who produce value. We all know a person who is uninspirational, who inspires us to not do right but to do wrong. We all can name an individual who's navigated themselves on a negative path on the trajectory of life as they unfolded themselves in a web of mediocrity, contaminating the environment with the pollution of their soul. And so what we have to understand is that the voids that exist within your life, these are the examples of what the fuck to never be. And so when we uptake the burden of personal development, when we choose to wake up every day and to maximize ourselves in every endeavor, when we look in the mirror and we truly say, I'm going to conquer my life instead of be conquered by life. I'm going to mold my circumstance instead of be molded by circumstance. And I'm going to align with my authentic self instead of be this conformity, deformity, abnormality sanctioned to the abyss of failure, capitulating in this encapsulation of a failed existence. Because you have to understand that to be a failure is to simply be the polarity of success. It's to be successful is to have a vision within yourself where you see yourself being, to see something more for yourself, to see yourself as more. And so we have to understand that to be a failure is to remain in the same fucking level and never actually progress in life. So most of you guys stay in the same fucking level and then you believe that you're entitled to being top tier. Bitch! Understand that there's levels to life and you're not on the high one because you've been on the same fucking level for the past 5 years. And so the best thing to understand when you uptake the duty of personal development is to understand that most people are going to be motivation and beacons of motivating energy, beacons of what the fuck not to be, to propel you, to pull back the slingshot to the destination where you need to go. You have to understand that when you uptake the personally developing and becoming into the individual you need to be to attain the goals you desire to attain, well, you have to understand that you have to be distinguishable in character. And so most people are indistinguishable. They're all the same. They're the same sheep in the same herd, conforming to the same shit. And then they pretend to be unique, but deep down, we all know that they wear the same clothes, they talk the same way, and they pair and bond like parasites, feeding each other with meaningless validation to validate themselves and their iniquity. Now, you have to be the individual to spot this and observe this, and then use this as fuel for your fire. Most people, they don't have fire. They're damp and they're cold. And so when you walk in as a furnace, you will draw attention to your name. And so the people that seek to express the inner turmoil that they have within themselves while being in your presence, you transmutate that turmoil that they express through maybe the slight posturing, or when you up the intensity of your development and you really become distinguishable in your nature, you'll see that people will deliberately get in your way to sabotage your path. Why? Because they saw a reflection, a mirror. You are the mirror and they are seeing the reflection of what the fuck they could have been. And so while you remained on the same level, we uptook the duty to wake up every fucking day, to hit that 3 a.m. wake up, to hit the everyday workout, to read the books, to apply the knowledge, and to take the risk, to necessitate and to facilitate one to the highest level of comprehension, to apply oneself to life at the highest of degrees. And so while you sanctioned yourself to the abyss of inevitable failure and you maneuvered through space and time, desecrating and decimating to your desolate existence, we now have to understand that when a mirror that shines forth the light that is truly within oneself, that can be uncovered through the personal development, well, this light is going to seem like a when you shine a light into your eye, you'll be blinded. And so most people are blinded by the fluorescence of your essence. And so the best thing to understand is that people are going to be your motivation. And so the way you react is a direct reflection of your character. You see, most people, where they break, we found out we're unbreakable. And so when the hate piles up and the attention grows and the gravitas of your persona, and you bend space and time to your will through the willpower that you accrue through the accruement of your self-development to compound oneself forward and to every day look in that fucking mirror with the meanest fucking look and dominate that individual, to dominate the resistances, to apply oneself at life, extracting value through the habits they induce into their consciousness to be something more than what they are. See, most of you guys are less than what you could have been. You have to understand that we exist in potentialities. And when we look at your potential as an individual, and we truly look in the depth of your soul, and we ask, was this the best you can do? We now have to sit there in astounding disappointment and disbelief on how much of a failure you are deep down, you know. And so what we have to do is look in the mirror and truly process oneself. See, most of you guys don't want to process, you want to deflect. And every time you deflect, you now have to sit in the subsequent of deflecting the responsibility to reflect. You have to understand that the level of development is going to correspond to the level of reflection. The more you can reflect on this yourself, the more you can actually refine your character. You guys are unrefined pieces of shit. You have to understand that you never actually did anything to be better. You're still addicted to porn. You're still watching Netflix. You're still playing the video game. You watch TV. You look in the mirror. You don't admire what the fuck you see. And still, you do the same shit on a cyclical cycle to ensure that you are a master at failure. That you are a master at failing so you can fall through the scaffoldings of being a bitch and the one existence that you have. And so you took your life for granted. You failed miserably. And so now you believe that this is what you're worth, and so you're going to project this through the way you behave. The way you behave is a direction of your self-worth. And so the question to you is, how much do you believe you're worth? Your existence, what the fuck do you believe you're worth? And so when we reflect upon your behavior, we now realize what you are worth through action, but not through fucking words. Because a lot of people say, I'm worth this. Everyone thinks they're worth infinity, but then they desecrate themselves and prove to be worth less. The best thing to understand is that if you're not going to do some shit to change, you're going to remain the same. And you're going to be a stagnancy, an existential stagnation of the accumulation of desecration of your existence. Every day you chose to be a profane individual, to exist in a life of profanity, and here you are again, projecting your mediocrity, allowing this to exfoliate and allowing your behavior to emulate as you emanate the mediocrity deep down within your soul that you need to overcome, but you refuse to because you're too fucking weak. It all comes down to this. You're too fucking weak. You're too much of a bitch to look in the fucking mirror and realize you can do some shit to change. You're too much of a pussy to look in the mirror and wipe off the fucking stains. And so you will die a failure. And the only person to blame is you. Most of you guys blame the trauma. Most of you guys blame your parents. Most of you guys blame someone. Anything but you. And this is your downfall, and this is why you fall short. You have to understand that you could have stood up. You could have walked up the hill of life. You could have walked the path, and you could have became more. You could have been proud of who you are. But instead, you shrouded and crowded yourself in a personal demolition as you chose to desecrate yourself every day. And so may the life that you have to bear become a reflection of this. And may you process the unconsciousness of which you have existed in for all this time to understand that you have shrugged all the shit in the trash under the carpet of your mind instead of confronting it. The only difference between those with quality and those without is simply those with quality look at themselves and they process what they've been through. Most people, they don't like the process. They don't like procession. They don't like progression. They like remaining stagnant. They like being validated for being a conformist. They like being validated for being comfortable, overly comfortable, to sit there and sleep in a sheet full of crumbs. You know who you are. This is the level of subpar that you exist on. And so what we have to understand is that the mirror is the best thing to ever happen to you. And to go look at that shit and realize you're a bitch is the best thing you can do before it's too fucking late. Peace!